Okay, take a look at number 4. Because I don't think we are at the level yet of how to properly use substitution more than once, which this proof involved. It just wasn't writing the word substitution in your reasons, and then I'm done. All right, watch. Please focus in. I'm going to try to make this as easy as possible. For the givens, you had 1 congruent to 2 and 2 congruent to 3 given. And correct me if I'm wrong, please, but I'm assuming most of you just started writing the vertical angles after that, which is fine. Maybe somebody did substitution right now, but start using the vertical angles. So give me a pair of vertical angles up here that you put down. Emily? 1 and 4 are vertical, so they are congruent. And I'm hoping you put down at least another pair. Now, hey, I know 5 and 2 are vertical, but anybody know why I really don't care about angle 5? It's not in my givens, and it's not in my proof statement. So if you wrote it down, that's fine. You just never used it probably. But there is another pair up here I definitely need. 3 is congruent to 6. Vertical angles are congruent. All right, now with this whole substitution, how many congruent quantities have I listed already up here? Count them up. How many congruent quantities are listed? 4. When you use substitution, you can only pick 2 of them. You cannot use all 4 of them at the same time. So what I need, I'll pick 2. I'm going to pick these 2 right here. When you use substitution, you only can pick 2 out of how many are there. All right, so if I know 1's congruent to 2 and 2's congruent to 3. Somebody give me a conclusion then. 1's congruent to 3, and that is my first substitution here. Okay, I've used them. I'm not going to go back and use them for a second time. Once they're used, they're done. So now, take a look. How many congruent quantities do I have now written on the board? 3. Pick 2. Can't do it on all 3. Pick 2 at a time that I can use substitution on. Which 2 can I use it on? There's a couple combos here I can do. Which 2 do you want me to use substitution on? Your choice. I can't use it on these 2 because there's nothing in common. You can't do substitution on these 2. Sure, I'll pick. How about those 2? 1 congruent to 4 and 1 congruent to 3. What do you got in return for me? 3 is congruent to 4. Notice that's my second substitution. Okay, they're done. I've used these already. They're done. Now, how many congruent quantities am I down to now? Not bad. You went from 4 to 3. Now I'm down to 2, so I got to use those 2. 3 congruent to 6, 3 congruent to 4. What's my conclusion? 6 is congruent to 4, which was my proof statement. So notice how I did substitutions 3 different times. Do we see that? I don't care if I give you 6 congruent quantities, 4, 3. You can only pick 2 at a time and substitute. Then go from there. 2 at a time, substitute. 2 at a time, substitute. And once you use them, don't go back and reuse them. All right, once they're done, they're done. Any other questions on this one? Okay, if we think we have that one straight, let's go back to a simpler one, which is 3. Proof number 3 from the homework. Where 2 was congruent to 4. I'm assuming next step was writing all the vertical angles that are congruent. Give me a pair that are congruent because they're vertical. 4 congruent to 3. And you could have also said 1 congruent to 2 because they're vertical. How many congruent quantities do I have up on the board? 3. You can only pick 2 of them to use right now. Which 2 do you want to use? Anybody have a preference, or am I going to pick again? All right, I'll pick these 2. 2 is congruent to 4 and 4 is congruent to 3. What's my conclusion then? 2 is congruent to 3. There's a substitution. Don't go back and use them. They're done. Now how many congruent quantities do I have left? 2. The only 2 I can use. 1's congruent to 2 and 2's congruent to 3. What's your final result then? 1 is congruent to 3, which is my proof statement. I only had to use substitution twice here. Are we okay here with the multiple substitutions in one proof? Because, hey, I may have thrown that in on Monday. But again, 2 at a time. 2 at a time and work. Anything else I can answer there on those? Proof 5. Proof 5. What vocabulary term came up in proof 5? Complementary. Okay, so now on Monday, I'm going to give you the sheet with all the facts on it. You're down to 2. What proof is this going to be at the end? Complements of the same or complements of congruent? Let's figure out that question right now. So is it going to be same angle or congruent angle? That's what we need to figure out. All right, look at the proof statement. 1 and 4. Somebody tell me something about angle 1 in this proof. Angle 1 is what? Complementary to which angle? 2. And then angle 4 is what? Are 2 and 3 the same angle? No. But if you look at your diagram, what do you know about 2 and 3? So it makes them. So in step 2, you should have angle 2 congruent to angle 3. Vertical angles are congruent. Then in step 3, you could have said, all right, 1 and 4 have to be congruent because they are complements of what? Congruent angles. They are complements of congruent angles. So 3-step proof. And then finally, number 1. Real quick show of hands. How many use substitution? Substitution. Subtraction. How many use subtraction? Okay, you guys that use subtraction, perfect. Just make sure you have straight angles are congruent. Okay, if you guys use subtraction, you must have said the ABD congruent to ACE because straight angles are congruent in step 2. How many of you use linear pairs? Okay, so check your proof now. Step 2 should have been angles 1 and 3 are supplementary. Angles 2 and 4 are supplementary because linear pairs are supplementary. And then your third reason should have been supplements of what type of angles? Congruent angles are congruent. Okay, so 2 different ways to do that proof. We all good on that? All good? All right, then you got to the algebra, huh? Let's just get right to it. The beast one that you may have trouble with. Number 11. Second period had a lot of complaining today. They didn't give me a diagram for this. I didn't know what it looked like. The directions clearly say, right before number 10, use the diagram at the right for the following problems. So I don't know if anybody had that issue or would like to admit to that issue. Okay. There was a diagram right in front of you. And I don't know how many of you just started freaking out because it said last year. Remember stuff from last year. What was I thinking, huh? All right, here we go. So yeah, I gave you a hint. You're going to have to set up a system of equations. What's the relationship between these two? Supplementary. What's the relationship between these two? Supplementary. What's the relationship between these two? Vertical, so they're equal. So you could have set up 2 different equations. Anyhow, I'm going to set up the easiest one, and hopefully you'll see right away why I chose to do it this way. What do you know about these two, the 3x and the y? So I can do 3x plus y equal to, yep. Ready? I'm gonna take these two angles. What do I know about these two? Also supplementary. Can you combine the like terms for me? 3x and 2x. So I'm going to go 5x minus y is also equal to. Anybody know why I set those two up like that? What's going to cancel out right away? Y's, yeah. So you didn't have to do like substitution, elimination. Remember those days? How many x's was I left with? 8x. And now here's where some of you may have got tripped up, even though you got this far. You don't keep the 180, 180. You combine, right? You didn't leave 3x, 3x. You did 3x and 5x, gave me 8x. 180 and 180 give me 360. And then divide both sides by 8. The value of x was equal to 40, not 40, 45 for x. Okay, but I wasn't looking for x or y. I was looking for the angle measurements. So watch, I don't even need to know what y is. Go back, plug in 45 for x. What's this angle measure? 3 times 45. And then I'm hoping at this point you can find the other 4 angles without even plugging in for x or y. What's the angle opposite? They're vertical, so 135. And what about the linear pair next to it? 45. Yep. Was there anything else you wanted to cover? We're going to go over the answers here, but everyone was all right on 10? We're all good on 10? What was DEB? $120, AEC, 60, AED, 60, and CEB. CEB? Well, DEB and, hold on. DEB should have been what? 120. AEC should have also been 120. They're vertical. AED and CEB were both 60. There we go. How about FKJ and number 9? FKJ. 45? 40, they're vertical. FKG. 40 because they were congruent. GKH. 100. And how about JKI? 140. Anything on those before we go to the next batch? Okay, I think I just wrote down the answers for these. So 70 for number 8. Both angles were 70. For number 7, 56, 124, and 146. And for 6, 42, 90, 42, 138. Okay. Anything you want to ask now on those algebra problems? Nothing? We're all good? Okay. We're done with the unit. We're done. Because of the fire drill, I would have liked to have you guys practice a little bit more. Sydney, what time does that say we're out of here? 12:19. Yeah. I would have done the first problem tonight for homework with you. You would have had plenty of time, but again, can't really have control over the fire drills. So do what you can tonight. We'll come back, review for the test tomorrow. Okay, so you guys have the assignment sheet. You guys know what pages to do. Oh, what did I say? No. We'll review tomorrow. Test on Monday. What? Monday. Okay, sorry, I misspoke. Said what? Tuesday? Okay, we'll review tomorrow, test Monday.